Vallabha Girbhardhari Prijana Vallabha Girbhardhari Jaisacinandana Janaranjana Jaisacinandana Janaranjana Jaisacinandana Janaranjana Jaisacinandana Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Go Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jaya Radha Radhanath Radha Radhanath Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gaura Hare, Gaura Hare, Gaura Hare, Jaya Gaura Hare. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaur Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radharanath Ki, Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki, Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead Ki, Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Purports Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we'd like to welcome you to this Sunday morning class, which is based on the Krishna book, continuing with chapter 10, the deliverance of Nala, Kovara, and Manigriva. So this is also linked with the pastime, which was in the previous chapter, chapter 9, the Damodar Lila. So they both connected. We know the pastime, Krishna. This is a Kartik Leela, actually. But it's, anyway, we'll read it today. The deliverance of Nala, Kovara, and Manigriva, chapter 10. The story of the cursing of Nala, Kovara, and Manigriva, and the deliverance by Krishna under the all blissful desire of the great sage Narad is here described. Two great demigods, Nala, Kovara, and Manigriva, were sons of the treasurer of the demigods, Kuvera, who was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Kuvera's material opulence had no limit. As the rich man's sons often become addicted to wine and women, so these two sons of Kuvera were also addicted to wine and sex. Once there were two demigods desiring to enjoy entered the garden. Once these two demigods desiring to enjoy entered the garden of Lord Shiva in the province of Kailash on the bank of the Mandakini Ganges. Here they drank much and engaged in hearing the sweet singing of the beautiful woman who accompanied them in that garden of fragrant flowers. In an intoxicated condition, the two demigods entered the water of the Ganges, which was filled with lotus flowers, and there they began to enjoy the company of the young girls exactly as a male elephant enjoys female elephants within the water. While they were thus enjoying themselves in the water, all of a sudden, Narad, the great sage, happened to pass that way. He would understand that the demigods Nala, Kovara, and Manigriva were too much intoxicated could not even see that he was passing. The young girls, however, were not so much intoxicated as the demigods, and they at once became ashamed of being naked before the great sage Narad. They began to cover themselves with all haste. The two demigod sons of Kuvera were so much intoxicated that they could not appreciate the presence of the sage Narad and therefore did not cover their bodies. On seeing the two demigods so degraded by intoxication, Narad desired their welfare and therefore exhibited his causeless mercy upon them by cursing them. Sounds harsh, isn't it? So this is what is called tough love. To be cruel, being cruel to be kind. So this is the typical behavior of wealthy when they're intoxicated with wealth and high education and beauty. They become very much forgetful of their position, of the original position. Actually, they become so covered by all these things. And it can be very, very frightful. Especially when one is completely immersed in such consciousness, knowing that the consciousness of the human being is meant for self-realization. That is why we get human form of life. And even better, they were in the higher planets. They were as demigods. They were demigods also. But we see this, the spoils of the culture of being too much spoiled. They were kind of spoiled, like typical rich, when you come from a rich family, with all you think your wealth is your God, everything becomes your God except God himself. So yeah, we see they were so engrossed in playing with the young girls in the water, completely oblivious of the presence of Narad. Now Shastra says that if one sees a saintly person, immediately he must offer his obeisances. He must be happy, he must show great gratitude. Oh, such a person has come to bless us, come to purify us. But no, they were completely oblivious of this personality who had just come. Of course, Narad Muni we know, is a great sadhu. He's a spiritual master of so many great personalities. Isn't it? Vyasdev, Dhruva Maharaj, which we're currently reading in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 4th canto. Valmiki, who the author of the Ramayana, the sons of Daksha. So many we can. Of course, he even gave shelter to a snake. That's how compassionate the sadhu is, isn't he? He sees every living entity that has a relationship with God. He sees everything, not only human form of life, but even the lower animals. Sarva Dehinam, Titikshepa Karunika, Surida Sarva Dehinam. These are the qualities of a sadhu. He is compassionate, he is merciful, and he is a friend to all living entities. Surida Sarva Dehinam. So these are saintly persons will see like that. Vidya Vinaya Sampana in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes a learned person. What is the definition of a learned Pandit? One is on the transcendental platform. Vidya Vinaya Sampana Brahmani Gavi Astini Suni Cheva so Pakacha Pandita Sama Dashinaha. A learned and gentle Brahmana, he sees with equal vision what he sees. He sees a Brahmana, he sees a cow, he sees an elephant, he sees a dog, he sees a dog eater. Now, in terms of external, we see these are different social. Isn't the Brahmana is in the mode of goodness, the cow is in the mode of goodness, the elephant is in the mode of passion, the dog is in the mode of ignorance, and worse still is the dog eater, Tamagun. But what's his Samadashana? He's seeing all these different, that he sees the super soul and the soul present. Therefore, he shows respect like that. He understands. That's his equal vision. To see like that. So, let's go on with the story. Because the great sage was compassionate upon them, he wanted to finish their false enjoyment of intoxication and association with young girls and wanted them to see Lord Krishna face to face. So this was the whole scenario. The sadhu is doya, is merciful. He is patita pavan, like we glorify Lord Chaitanya as the savior of the fallen souls, patita pavan. So likewise, the sadhus have a similar motive. So he wanted to save them from that atrocious behavior. A person in the material world, when favored by the material opulence of riches, generally becomes addicted to three things: intoxication, sex, and gambling. Materially opulent men, being puffed up with the accumulation of wealth, also become so merciless that they indulge in killing the animals by opening slaughterhouses, and they think that they themselves will never die. Such foolish persons, forgetting the laws of nature, become merely overly infatuated with the body. They forget that the material body, even though very much advanced in civilization, up to the position of the demigod, will finally turn into ashes or stool. And while one is living, whatever the external condition of the body may be, within there is only stool, urine, various kinds of worms. Very vivid description of this. This is body, and we're proud of that, right? We're proud of our body. But basically, this is what it is. It's made of all these horrible things. We cover it up nicely, isn't it? Nice clothes, perfume, wig. All this, we decorate this body through our vanity, not knowing the actual nature. Such foolish persons, forgetting the laws of nature, become overly infatuated with the body. They forget that the material body, even though very much advanced in civilization, up to the position of a demigod, will finally turn into ashes or stool. And while one is living, whatever the external condition of the body may be, within there is only stool, urine, and various kinds of worms. Thus, being engaged in jealousy and violence to other bodies, materialists cannot understand the ultimate goal of life. And without knowing the goal of life, they generally glide down to a hellish condition in the next life. Such foolish persons commit all kinds of sinful activities on account of the temporary body, and they're even unable to consider whether the body actually belongs to them. This is also vividly described in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the divine and the demoniac. The demoniac of all these qualities of arrogance, envy, lust, anger, greed. These are all typical of, and these are three gates leading to hell. Lust, anger, greed. These are gates leading, these are the qualities of the demoniac. But in Kali Yuga, we have, we are endowed with such consciousness. We have divine and we have demoniac. We are kind of blessed with both, or we kind of challenged with both. There's divine pulling us either side, till we come to the point of being Krishna conscious and we understand the nature of this body, what it's meant to be, how is it meant to act, what is the constitutional nature of this body, through the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and by the association of hearing from such great sadhus, one becomes self-realized. Such foolish persons commit all kinds of sinful acts on account of the temporary body, and they are even unable to consider whether the body actually belongs to them. Generally, it is said that the body belongs to the persons who feed it. One might therefore consider whether the body belongs to one personally or to the master in whom one renders service. The master of slaves claims his right to the bodies of the slaves because the master feeds the slave. It may also be questioned whether the body belongs to the father, who is the seed-giving master of the body, or to the mother who develops a child's body in a womb. Foolish persons are engaged in committing all sorts of sins due to the misconception of identifying the material body with the self. But one should be intelligent enough to understand to whom the body belongs. A foolish person indulges in killing animals to maintain the body, and he does not consider whether the body belongs to him, to his father or mother or maternal grandfather. Sometimes a father gives his daughter in charity to a person with the view of getting back the daughter's child as a son. The body may also belong to a stronger man who forces it to work for him. Sometimes a slave body is sold to a master, and from that day on the body belongs to the master. And at the end of life, the body belongs to the fire, because the body is given to the fire and burned to ashes. Or the body is thrown into the streets to be eaten by dogs and vultures. So there's different ways of disposing of this, isn't? Different cultures have different. There's burial into the ground, then there's cremation. Some cultures, they leave the body to be eaten by vultures. Yeah, and wild dogs. Leave it like that. Because the dead body is useless anyway. We spend putting a nice suit on the body, buying a nice expensive coffin, decorating the body, but it's going to be burnt anyway and back to its like ashes to ashes, dust to dust, or if it's eaten by worms, it becomes stool and goes back to the elements: earth, water, fire, ether. Isn't? So this is the nature of this material body. But this body, we understand, is just a vehicle for the soul. Deeper understanding is the body is a vehicle for the soul, which is the actual owner of this body. And of course, even more deeper understanding that this body belongs to the Supreme Soul, who is the Paramatma. Isn't? And Krishna says, he confirms that in Bhagavad Gita, Am Bija Prada Pita. I am the seed-giving Father. So your real Father, we understand from Bhagavad Gita, he is the seed-giving Father. Yes. He is actually the actual. So this body, we must use it in the service of the Lord. Otherwise, it's becomes useless. No matter how much educated we get materially, or how much expensive clothes we get, or pamper this body, or indulge in all kinds of sense gratificatory. This is all in the lower modes of nature. The modes of nature. And It means taking birth again, coming back in another, not necessarily in a human form of life. And that is the scary part. That is the danger, that we may regress into lower species of life. That is the danger. That is the danger. But Krishna is saying devotional service is so powerful. Na bikrama na shoshti pratyavayuna vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya triyate mayato bayat. He says, in this endeavor of bhakti, devotional service, there is no what? Loss or diminution. It doesn't get any lesser. In fact, it actually increases. Like a bank balance, we have a spiritual bank balance that also accrues. Whereas your material bank balance, it decreases the value of inflation and all that. Plus what you lose, you don't get it back. Whereas devotional service, even a little performed, can save one, Krishna is saying in Bhagavad, from the most dangerous type of fear. And what is that fear? That fear that we may not get a human form of life again to carry on, to act intelligently, or to use it in its proper perspective. That is the danger. So intelligence. And sometimes you have to go through many births. Janmanam, Bhavanam Janmanam Ante. Krishna is saying, after many, many births, one comes to Krishna consciousness. Samatma Sudulabha. Such a soul is very rare. So when we come to, that means we've been through so many different bodies, isn't it? Krishna consciousness is like coming home. When we come to, it's like coming home, coming to our original nature, and connecting with our actual position, our swarup, our constitutional position. And this will make us happy, real happiness. Before committing all kinds of sins to maintain the body, one should understand, we read that. When a man is infatuated with the false prestige of opulence, he does not care for any moral instruction, but indulges in wine, women, and animal killing. In such circumstances, a poverty-stricken man is often better situated because a poor man thinks of himself in relation to other bodies. A poor man often does not wish to inflict injuries upon other bodies because he can understand more readily. And when he himself is injured, he feels pain. Therefore, the great Saint Narad considered that because the demigods, Nalakuvera and Manigreva, were so infatuated by false prestige, they should be put in a condition of life devoid of opulence. So this is what happens when you misuse when we misuse this body and misuse all the opulences, then we, in the next, we'll be bereft of it. The goddess of fortune will take it all away. And this is also when we prasadam, when we waste prasadam. When we waste prasadam, this is also, we will be short, we'll be take birth in some place where there's always drought and starvation. So many millions of people, they are starving. They are starving. Even the most simplest commodity they can't afford, like grains or bread or milk. They cannot afford these things. It becomes such a challenge for them. Taking birth in a desert or in some icy conditions of life. That means we've been very sinful in our previous lives. To take birth in such conditions. Imagine taking birth in a desert where it's just sand and sand and sand and horrible heat. Heat goes up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Imagine that, trying to walk in a desert like that. There's no water. shortage of water, or in some icy places like the Eskimo land, where there's no vegetation. So these all because of our sinful activities, or we take part in places where we drought conditions, famine, because of misuse of our opulence. All these are given, we have to acknowledge, is coming from God. He's giving everything via the demigods. The demigods are simply the administrators who are under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A person who has a pinprick in his body does not wish others to be pricked by pins. A considered man in the life of poverty does not wish others to be also put in that condition. Generally, it is seen that one who has risen from a poverty-stricken life and becomes wealthy creates some charitable institution at the end of his life so that other poverty-stricken men might be benefited. In short, a compassionate poor man may consider others' pains and pleasures with empathy. A poor man is seldom puffed up with false pride, and he may be freed from all kinds of infatuation. And he may be freed from all kinds of infatuation. He may remain satisfied by whatever he gets for his maintenance by the grace of the Lord. So we should, sometimes we have to be put in such challenging conditions to acknowledge that. But we see it as a favor of the Lord. When the Lord favors somebody, he says, I take away all the opulence. So they have either no recourse but to surrender to me. When I favor somebody, I take all the opulence, all the material opulence, and leave them bereft. So they have no other recourse but to surrender to me. So that's our good fortune. To come to Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we in that situation. And Krishna mentioned Bhagavad Gita, 4 types of people who come to him. Isn't? Those who are distressed, those who want money, wealth, those who are out of curiosity they may come, and those who are genuinely seeking knowledge. Chatur Vida Bhajante Mam, Krishna is saying like that. These 4 types of persons approach me. To remain in the poverty-stricken condition is a kind of austerity. According to Vedic culture, therefore, the Brahmanas, as a matter of routine, keep themselves in a poverty-stricken condition to save themselves from false prestige of material opulence. False prestige due to advancement in material prosperity is a great impediment for spiritual emancipation. That's quite a statement, isn't it? Even the Brahmanas, generally Brahmanas are, due to some caste, they are in that situation of poverty. We know the story of, where is it? First time of Sudama Vipra. Sudama Vipra was in Gurukul with Krishna. They were both together. And somehow Krishna later went to Dwarka and became like a prince, like a king of Dwarka. Meanwhile, Sudama is a Brahmana, and he lived in one little jondol kind of thatched house with hardly any furniture, just simple. And he had a wife. And she said to him, we can't go on like this. We have to do something. Go and see your friend. Go to Dwarka. Go and ask him for favor. So, Sudama, she packed a little of broken rice. Packed in a little, and he took that and he went off to Dwarka. And from a distance, Rukmini and Krishna, they saw this person approaching, a sadhu. Immediately they went out to meet him. And they took him in, bathed his feet, fed him nicely. And Krishna even did, where he's doing, offering him lamp, all the attributes that one would give to a very distinguished person, like we do Arti, we're offering lamp, because this is the greatest personality that is gracing us. So we're welcoming him like that with all this fanfare of royalty. This is why we worship the Lord in such opulence. So Krishna was doing that to Sudama. And Rukmini is just petrified. She's watching the whole thing, shocked. And of course, he carried this, and Krishna grabbed it. What you got for me? And he began to relish broken rice. Broken rice is like one of the cheapest things you can buy, isn't it? Not even first quality basmati rice or the higher grades but some broken rice. And Krishna was relishing it because it came with such devotion. It wasn't about the quality of the rice, it was the mood of how he brought it with such devotion. With devotion. And after that, the pleasantries were exchanged, and Sudama was going back to his home. But when he was approaching, he could not recognize this whole thatched building anymore. He turned into a very opulent, and she was dressed in such finery and gold and all the trappings that a woman may want. Beautiful sari, all the jewelry. And this is how they were transformed, like that. But the point is, Krishna takes away these things to give up our false pride. He takes away these things. Therefore, for a Brahmana, it's not that he has to become opulent. No. His opulence is his austerity. Opulence for a Brahmana is the austerity he performed. That is opulence. Austerity. And of course, disseminating the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Another advantage of poverty is that a saintly person can easily enter a poor man's house, and thus the poor man can take advantage of the saintly person's association. A very opulent man does not allow anyone to enter his house. Therefore, the saintly person cannot enter. According to Vedic system, a saintly person takes the position of a mendicant so that on the plea of begging something from the householder, he can enter any house. So this is also a culture that when a saintly person comes, we should welcome him, offer him to whatever within your affordance. Whatever is affordable, you offer him. Give him a seat to sit, offer him some drink or something to eat, fly him with some gift. This is the culture. Well, the saintly person in turn, he comes to disseminate some knowledge that you may come out of this material life. So that is it's called Madhukari. Madhukari is like the sannyasis or the renounced people. This is what they meant to do, go house to house and beg. Like the Goswamis were doing the same thing. They would go out all day and beg for a few pieces of chapatis, dried, not even nicely dried chapatis, but it was not about that. It was more, they were very highly tuned, very evolved spiritually. That was there. And they hardly slept. Just 2 hours a day, night. And they didn't have even a house. They lived under trees, the Goswamis. If you study the life of the Goswamis, they lived very frugally. Yes. And dressed, you see pictures of them, they just a loincloth and a chadar over them. That's how they lived. And but they were so highly spiritually surcharged that just seeing them, one becomes advanced. It is said, Lord Chaitanya, sadhu sanga, sharva shastra khai. Sadhu sanga lava matra sarva siddhi hai. Just by a fleeting glance at a saintly person, in the association of such person, what happens? There's all the sarva shastra, all the imports of the Vedic can be revealed to you at once. Lava matra means like a fleeting time, fleeting second. What to speak of hours of association, like that. So this is the potency that the sadhus, they come with, because they're coming with the Lord in the heart. When Vidura was coming back after 30 years in pilgrimage, and he just came back after the war, the Mahabharata war, and he was coming to the palace of Yudhishthira. And Yudhishthira offered very wonderful prayers. You remember the prayers, Raghunath? Anyway, he's praying, you are Tirtha, you are a Tirtha. Wherever you go, it becomes a place of pilgrimage. Why? Because you're carrying the Lord in your heart. So this is the potency of sadhu surcharge. Prabhupada himself would say, he's walking in New York, but this is like Vaikuntha for me. So, a sadhu, a powerful sadhu can do that. He can purify a papa vidya. A papa vidya, he can purify by his potency, he can purify. So Narad was going to purify these two sons off, whereby giving them very clinically some tough love. According to the Vedic system, a saintly person takes the position of mendicant so that on the plea of begging something from the he can enter any house. The householder who has usually forgotten everything about spiritual advancement because he is busy maintaining family affairs can be benefited by the association of a saintly person. There is a great chance for the poor man to become liberated through the association with a saint. Of what use are persons who are puffed up with material opulence and prestige if they are bereft of the association of saintly persons and devotees of the Supreme Godhead? The great Saint Narad, therefore, thereafter thought that it was his duty to put these demigods into a condition where they could not be falsely proud of their material opulence and prestige. Narad was compassionate and wanted to save them from their fallen life. They were in the mode of darkness, and being therefore unable to control their senses, they were addicted to sex life. It was a duty of a saintly person like Narad to save them from their abominable condition. In animal life, the animal has no sense to understand that he is naked. But Kubera was the treasurer of the demigods, a very responsible man. And Nalu Kubera and Manigreva were two of his sons, and yet they became so animalistic and irresponsible that they could not understand, due to intoxication, that they were naked. To cover the lower part of the body is a principle of human civilization. To cover the lower part of the body is a principle of human civilization. And this is quite a statement because when I was reading this, I was thinking of the pastime in the Mahabharata of Duryodhana. Duryodhana's mother, the queen, Gandhari, when she married Dhritarashtra, who was blind, she voluntarily accepted blindfold. Throughout her life, she wore blindfold, never saw any other man. So this was the Shakti she got from being chaste, like that. And she's described as one of the chastest women in the Vedic history, Gandhari. So she wanted to give Duryodhana, eldest son, a benediction that he must come one morning to her inner chambers, but he must come without any clothes. And somehow Krishna was in the vicinity and he overheard that. And he waited for that time when Duryodhana is, he's obedient to his mother. He'll do anything to please his mother. Right? She's the queen. And the next morning, true to his word, he was walking around naked and about to enter the chambers of the queen. And Krishna saw that and he said, hold on. You can't go to the queen like this condition. It's abominable. Go and put on some clothes or put something. Cover your loins at least. A gamsha, what we call the gamsha that when we take bath also, we wear a gamsha. We don't go naked into the shower also. That is the culture. We see that even in India, the women, they cover themselves very discreetly, the top and the bottom. And even among men, you cannot say they expose themselves. Because I was in Radhakund one night, the appearance of Radhakund. And there was thousands and thousands of people. It's like at close to midnight, and at that particular time, everybody dips into everybody was changing, and I was next to some very old woman, but they were, and they were. I'm thinking, hey, next, but they were so discreetly dressed, with the undergarments that you could not see anything that was revealing in them. And this is chastity. This is chastity, and we are trained like that, to be like that. Never be around naked, even in the shower. You should not be naked. This sound very, but it is the culture. We are trained like that. So this is, it's saying this statement. So Duryodhana, he listened to Krishna and he went and put on a little, just to cover his loins, and he went into the chambers. And his mother was blindfold. So the moment she opened the blindfold, whatever part she saw became invincible, the part of Duryodhana. He became like kind of immortal. But the parts that were covered became like weakened. And Krishna remembered that. And she was very mad at him. Why did you do this? Krishna tricked him actually. If the outcome of the war would have been different if Duryodhana had all the potency of his mother's blessings like that, they would have won the war. So Krishna had to think very quickly and trick Duryodhana to put some clothes on. Because later, in the battle, that Bhima and Duryodhana, they were the best fighters in the land with the gada, with the mace, isn't? And guess who taught Duryodhana fighting? Balaram. Balaram taught. Balaram somehow was attracted to Duryodhana in so many ways. He liked Duryodhana. He had kind of affinity for Duryodhana. He wanted even Duryodhana to marry Subhadra. But Krishna wasn't happy with that. So on the day of the proposed marriage, Krishna said, Arjun, you go and steal a Kshatriya. Kshatriyas can do these things. And Arjun went and kidnapped and married her. And Balaram was so angry. He was prepared to kill Arjun for that. So it is said that Balaram wasn't in the war. We know this, right? In the Mahabharata war, he was gone on pilgrimage somewhere. He wasn't involved in the war. That's also been a different outcome. Balaram fighting in the Mahabharata war. So the point is, that part coming back to the story. So this battle went on between Bhima and Duryodhana for 28 days, and they both were like weary, battle weary, and then in the end, Krishna remembered. He showed a sign. Hit him in the thigh. He kind of gestured to her. Hit him then, and Bhima got the message, and he whacked him with all force. And this is what? Broke Duryodhana, and that's how Bhima beat Duryodhana. And that's how the war ended. Duryodhana died in that war. So that part was vulnerable. That's the word? Vulnerable. That she could not, when she took off a blindfold, whatever eyes that were not covered became invulnerable. Before, in the war, nobody could kill Duryodhana. Nobody, because except Bhima. Bhima was destined to fight him in the hand. Yes. So yeah, this point of Narada therefore thought that the best punishment for them was to make them immovable, living entities or trees. This is according to karmic reaction, isn't it? Somebody likes to exhibit themselves and walk around, prance around naked. And God will give them such a body as trees. But this was a special mercy by Narad Muni, because these trees were no ordinary trees. As we'll read. Trees are by nature's laws immovable. Although trees are covered by the modes of ignorance, they cannot do harm. The great sage Narad thought it fitting that although the brothers would be punished to become trees, by his mercy they would continue to keep the memory and be able to know why they were being punished. After changing, the body of a living entity generally forgets his previous life. But in special cases, by the grace of the Lord, as with Nala, Kubera and Manigriva, one can remember. Sage Narad therefore contemplated that the two demigods should remain for 100 years in the time of the demigods. That's a lot of time. It's not even like 100 years, because time is relative in different planets. In the higher planets, it is more longer. Yeah, time is relative according to the planetary system. So they look for 100 years of the demigods of the celestial time. Siddhartha therefore contemplated that the two demigods should remain for 100 years in the time of the demigods, in the form of trees. And then after that, they would be fortunate enough to see the Supreme Godhead face to face by his causeless mercy. And thus they would be again promoted to the life of the demigods and become great devotees of the Lord. So sadhu's curse is seeming harsh, but it has very fortunate one person to get a sadhu's curse like that. After this, the great sage Narada returned to his abode, known as Narayana Ashrama, and the two demigods turned into trees, known as twin Arjuna trees. The two demigods were favored by the causeless mercy of Narada and given a chance to grow. Where did they take? In the courtyard of Krishna's father's palace, right at the entrance. The two demigods were favored by the causeless mercy of Narada and given a chance to grow in Nanda's courtyard and see Lord Krishna face to face. Although child Krishna was bound up in a wooden mortar, he began to proceed towards the twin trees in order to fulfill the prophecy of his great devotee Narad. And Krishna knew that Narad was his great devotee and that the trees standing before him as twin Arjuna trees were actually the sons of Kubera. I must now fulfill the words of my great devotee Narad, he thought. Then he proceeded through the passage between the two trees. Although he was able to pass through the passage, the large wooden mortar stuck horizontally between the trees. Where's that picture? Here. It used to be on top there, where Krishna is under these trees. Anyway, this is where his mother is tying up to the mortar. See that? That is the grinding mortar. Krishna was tied and he was dragging it out of the house. See this picture here? It's a massive kind of contraption that they used to beat the grain, isn't it? Or the butter, churning the butter. So he was dragging that. He's a little boy. He's like a small boy. And he's dragging this thing. It was wedged between these two trees. And this is how he fulfilled the benediction of Narad, that these trees will. Okay, let's read. Then he proceeded through the passage between the two trees. Although he was able to pass through the passage, a large wooden mortar stuck horizontally between the trees. Taking advantage of this with great strength, imagine this baby, with great strength, these trees were giant of trees. With great strength, the Lord Krishna began to pull the rope which was tied to the mortar. And soon as he pulled, the two trees with all their branches and limbs fell down with a great sound. Out of the broken fallen trees came two great personalities, shining like blazing fire. All sides became illuminated and beautiful by the presence. The two purified personalities immediately came before the child Krishna, and bowed down to offer the respects and prayers in the following words. Dear Lord Krishna, you are the original personality of Godhead, master of all mystic powers. Learned Brahmanas know very well that this cosmic manifestation is an expansion of your potencies, which are sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest. You are the original provider of life, body, and who is all-pervading, the imperishable controller of everything, and you are eternal time. You are the original source of the cosmic manifestation, which is acting under the spell of the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. You are living as a super soul in all the multi-forms of living entities, and you know very well what is going on within their bodies and minds. Therefore, you are the supreme director of all activities, of all living entities. But although you are in the midst of everything which is under the spell of the material modes of nature, you are not affected by such contaminated qualities. No one under the jurisdiction of the material modes can understand your transcendental qualities, which existed before the creation. Therefore, you are called supreme transcendence. Let us offer our respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of you, Lord Vasudeva, the supreme Brahman, who are always glorified by your personal internal potency. In this material world, you make yourself known only by your different incarnations. Although you assume different types of bodies, these bodies are not part of the material creation. They are always full of the transcendental potencies of unlimited opulence, strength, beauty, fame, wisdom, and renunciation. In the middle existence, there is a difference between the body and the owner of the body. But because you appear in your original spiritual body, there is no such difference for you. When you appear, your uncommon activities indicate that you are the supreme person of Godhead. Such uncommon activities are not possible for anyone in material existence. You, the supreme person of Godhead, cause the birth and death as well as the liberation of living entities. And you are full with all your plenary expansions. You can bestow on everyone all kinds of benedictions. O Lord, O source of all auspiciousness and goodness, we offer our respectful obeisance unto you. You are the all-pervading supreme personality of Godhead, the supreme source of peace, and the supreme personality in the dynasty of the King Yadu. O Lord, our Father, known as Kuvera, the demigods, is your servant. Similarly, the great sage Narad is also your servitor. And only by their grace have we been able to see you personally. We therefore pray that we may always be engaged in your transcendental loving service by speaking only about you, your glories, and hearing about your transcendental activities. May our hands and other limbs be engaged in your service, and our minds always be concentrated at your lotus feet, and our heads always bowed down before the all-pervading universal form of your Lordship. When the demigods Nala, Kuvera, and Manigriva finished their prayers, the child Lord Krishna, the master and proprietor of Gokul, bound to the wooden grinding mortar by the ropes of Yasoda, smiled and said, "It was already known to me that my great devotee Narad Muni had shown his causeless mercy by saving you from the abominable conditions of pride due to possessing extraordinary beauty and opulence in a family of demigods. He has saved you from gliding down into the lowest condition of hellish life. All these facts are already known to me. You are very fortunate because not only were you cursed by him, but you had the great opportunity to see him. If someone is able by chance to see face to face a great saintly person like Narad, who is always serene and merciful to everyone, then immediately that conditioned soul becomes liberated. This is exactly like being situated in the full light of the sun. There cannot be any visionary impediment. Therefore, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, your lives have now become successful because you have developed ecstatic love for me. This is your last birth within the material existence. Now you can go back to your father's residence in the heavenly planets, and by remaining in the attitude of devotional service, you will be liberated in this very life. After this, the demigod circumambulated the Lord many times and bowed down before him again and again. And thus they left. The Lord remained bound up with ropes to the grinding mortar. Thus ends the Bhakti purport of the 10th chapter of Krishna, the deliverance of Nalakuvara and Manigriva. So also, think of the praise of Kunti in the first canto, 8th chapter. She prays like this: Janmashparya Shurta Shibir Edamanum Mada Purman Naivarat Adik Datum Vai Tvamakinchana Gocharam. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feelings. So, although Queen Kunti was of high parentage, she's a queen coming from such noble birth, she wanted the Lord to, she's saying, what is the use of all these things? I don't want it, because it prevents one from having sincere feelings for you. And she was not only the aunt she was a devotee of Krishna. She's the mother of the Pandavas, and she knows how Krishna was always on the side in spite of all the trials and tribulations that they encountered. They did not at any point, they always depended on Krishna. And this is, after the war, Krishna is visiting all his devotees, and he encounters Queen Kunti, and this is a prayer, a wonderful prayer. What's the use of all this high birth? We sometimes we're proud of this, taking in aristocratic families, royal families, and creates a kind of culture of arrogance to other people. You see, like that. So she didn't want these things. Although she had all these things. He said, take it away. I don't want it. Because it prevents me from having sincere feelings for you, or sincerely calling out your name with sincere feelings. We can chant Hare Krishna, but to what degree to that? What will attract Krishna? In all helplessness, if we chant like that, Krishna will reciprocate. But if we chant with half-baked, or we have, like mixed feelings, or inattentive chanting, we may not get the full benefit of that. When we study the 10 offenses, the 11th offense is to be inattentive chanting. And that will cause you to break all the other 10. Inattentive chanting will make you do that. So, attentively means we have to give quality time. That's your time with Krishna. So devote that, dedicate that time. And that time is best, he said, during the time of Mangala. The Mangala means auspicious time. Before the sun rises. We should engage in such activity of chanting the Lord's name with feeling. Yeah, with feeling. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments? This is a very wonderful pastime. How Krishna shows his mercy through his devotees. And Krishna is also duty bound to honor his devotees. Like Krishna, even when Brahma gave benedictions to Rani and Krishna to honor them, isn't it? And same time he still gave special mercy to these demons. Krishna, the Supreme Godhead, ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.